All right, let's get going. So this is identifying significance in your analytics data. I'm going to bring on Doug Hall in a minute. I'm Miles Younger, your host. Quick word about Live with MightyHive. This is the very first episode. This is a new content series from us. These are going to be information-packed chats with digital media and analytics experts. So we're going to cover all kinds of subject matter. It's meant to be very informative. We're going to have MightyHivers on. We'll have clients and brands on. We'll talk to our tech partners. We want to have everybody on, and for you, the audience, to be able to learn from this series. I want you to subscribe at livewithmightyhive.splashthat.com. That way you will be able to get notified as we announce new episodes. I think that link should be getting chatted to you at some point, so click through, make sure you subscribe and you're on our list. And then if you have questions, feedback, episode ideas, we would love to hear from you. Email us at live@mightyhive.com. Quick word about MightyHive. MightyHive is a new breed of media consultancy. We work across analytics, programmatic and digital media, data strategy. We are a global company, so wherever you're joining us from, it is highly likely we have an office and a team near you. A couple of our esteemed clients over there on the right-hand side of your screen. If you want to learn more, go to mightyhive.com or contact us at questions@mightyhive.com. We would love to hear from you. So let's dive into identifying significance in your analytics data. I'm going to bring Doug on in a minute. And quick housekeeping note, the complete recording and slides will be available later, so you can relax your wrists and just sit back and enjoy the show. So before we bring Doug on, there were just two things that I wanted to kind of bring up that I think lend a little context to today's discussion. So one of the things Doug is going to talk about is using the idea of analytics significance to kind of level up to some ability to determine causality and make causal inferences. And it just so happens that noted analytics guy Avinash Kaushik happened to bring this up in his newsletter like 2 weeks ago. And I'm just going to read this quote. "Causal inference is an incredible tool for powering smart decisions. What really drove that increase in sales of 2x? Does TV really drive long-term brand value that results in repeated purchases?" So, as usual, Avinash is able to boil down a pretty complex idea into a very plain English set of questions that marketers should be asking themselves. I would highly advise checking out his newsletter if you don't already. It's always really good. So the next thing that I wanted to point out here before bringing Doug on is Shopify's CTO recently tweeted out this chart, and this is global traffic on the Shopify platform. So presumably this includes several tens, hundreds of thousands of Shopify stores within this data. And you can see on the left-hand side there, towards the end of 2019 in the holiday season, you can see the Black Friday spike in traffic. And that's entirely normal and expected, I assume, for the Shopify platform. But then as you go towards the right and you get into March 2020 and the coronavirus crisis gets worse, you can see Shopify platform traffic just climbing and climbing and climbing until we get to a point now where every day is like Black Friday on the Shopify platform, and presumably their online store clients are seeing the same type of thing in the data. And this is just truly unprecedented. You can't just go back to 2019 or 2018 and kind of compare data sets. So, the ability to distill some level of significance from that fire hose of data, and then maybe to make the leap to some determination of causality could be like a total game changer for brands right now. And so with that, I would like to say a few words of introduction for our guest, Doug Hall. He's so kind to be with us here today. Doug is Senior Director of Analytics with MightyHive in EMEA. He was at ConversionWorks for 10 years before ConversionWorks merged with MightyHive last year. And personally, I've been like super thrilled to get to know the ConversionWorks team. They're all awesome. It's been great to work with Doug. He's been in analytics over 20 years. He gave the closing keynote at Super Week 2020 back in January. He wears glasses. He's tall. He has amazing hair. And on Twitter, if you really like vegan porridge recipes, he is at FastBloke on Twitter. So, definitely give him a follow. So, hey, Doug, how are you? Say hi. Thanks for being here.
Hey, Miles. Thank you for having me. Hello to everybody. Don't forget the sourdough recipes on Twitter as well. The sourdough is also a thing. So I'd love to welcome everybody to a unique Zoom call. It's unique because all the cameras and all the microphones are actually well adjusted, and nobody is wearing pajamas, as far as I know. And let's assume that's a thing. Okay, so this is So here we are with live at MightyHive. So yeah, I've enjoyed over 20 years in the industry, hence my wonderful luscious locks of hair. Last 10 years with ConversionWorks, now with MightyHive. One day, Miles, I look forward to meeting you in person after lockdown and all this is over.
Likewise.
Come over. I'll shake you by the hand and look you in the eye. I'm looking forward to that. But I want to look back to the example you gave about Shopify just briefly. I don't think this is a unique example. It's an excellent illustration, but certainly these are extraordinary times, and many of our clients are seeing extraordinary data. And that just goes to emphasize the need to get a clear signal from this data. This is what we're talking about today, and to be able to cut through that noise to decide what is actually happening and why, and to be able to say, yes, this is important. This is something we need to act on. Now, before we get into the meaty, heavy stuff, I want to just have a lighter illustration to start with. And again, this is looping back to your reference to Avinash. Avinash, I've met a few times. I think he's a great guy. I think his newsletter is excellent, well worth a subscribe. And he gave a lovely story in the last newsletter around causal inference. And he said, a long time ago, Avinash read an article that said, men who kiss their wives goodbye before they leave for work live longer. That's great. So before he was married, he decided he was going to kiss his future wife goodbye every day. It's absolutely charming. It was only much later that after a few years of kissing goodbye, that he realized the act of kissing goodbye was just a correlation. And the causal factor in the equation here was that he loved his wife deeply, still does, and this made him happy. Okay, and the happier men have fewer health issues, and as a side effect, live longer. So 2 decades plus of marriage. Congratulations, Avinash and Mrs. Avinash. He says, I'll still kiss my wife goodbye before going to work every day, but not to live longer. But just because he makes him happy. I think that's fantastic. So that's the difference that we're going to tease out between just a straight correlation and what is actually a causal relationship between an event and the data that we observe from that event.
Awesome. Yeah. And I mean, it's impressive. He is able to come up with these cool stories like every week. I don't know how he does that.
Yeah.
Okay. So Doug, this is how we are going to break this down. You are going to tell us all about significance in the context of analytics. And we're going to break it down this way. We're going to do, what is significance and why does it matter? Just to set the baseline. Then you're going to walk us through actually how you might blend testing and validation of significance with analytics data. It's going to include a live demo. Fingers crossed, everything goes fine, but stick around for the live demo. It's pretty cool. And then so that we are not just doing analytics for the sake of analytics, Doug's going to walk us through how to actually turn this into actionable stuff. And then lastly, we are going to do Q&A in Zoom. Use your Q&A button. Don't use the raise hand or the chat buttons. You might have a lot of buttons going on. Use the Q&A button. We'll get your questions and we're gonna answer them live towards the end. So let's get started. And then Doug, if you need me to flip around with the slides, just let me know. Okay,
cool. Yeah.
So first question, in the context of analytics, what is significance and why does it matter?
Yeah, what do we actually mean here? And I'm going to be absolutely honest, totally transparent. I'm not going to talk about the mathematics behind significance, okay? It's probably above my mental pay grade, and I think we want to keep it a bit lighter and a bit more interesting. So I want to go in terms of, in simple terms, if we recognize that when the cost of making a mistake is small, we want to act fast, okay? And we want to be confident that we're not wrong. When the cost of a mistake is large, we want to act carefully, and we want to be confident that we are right. Now, both of these approaches need robust measures of confidence to either be not wrong or to be right. Now, so if we say, if there is a change of some sort, an event, we start a campaign or we add a feature to our app. So if we observe any change in our data, we need to be confident that the thing that happened was actually responsible for the change in that data, and not, as we saw with Avanash's example, not just a correlation. We need to be able to establish a causal relationship there, okay? So if we look at our data prior to our event, and we say, okay, what would have happened had we not done this thing? Had this thing not happened, what would our data look like? Okay, and if we can demonstrate that had we not done this thing, the data wouldn't have changed, then we can infer, really careful use of language there, we can infer that we have a causal relationship between the event and the change in the data. Remember, this is still a probability. We can never prove causality in a categorical sense, but we can be highly confident in this being a causal relationship. Okay, so we do need to make decisions with the support of data and maths. Even though this is still only a probability, it's way better than just guessing. Okay, we're not using the eyeball to sort of think, is that data right? We're not using our gut reaction, because it's typically wrong. We want to be able to remove emotion from whatever decision-making process we're taking in. We want to be able to eliminate the risk of introducing even subconscious bias. We want to be able to say, okay, if we have a lack of, if we lack domain knowledge, say, for example, or if we lack the seasonal experience, then mathematics comes to our rescue and helps us understand, yeah, this was a change that meant something, and we can act on this, being confident that we're either not wrong or right. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So, just for attendees, you are probably seeing a poll right now that would be great to get your input on. First of all, first question is just around your level of confidence in understanding what is meant by significance in the context of analytics. And then we also would love to know why you attended today. This just provides a lot of information for us, and maybe we can weave that into the rest of the presentation and make sure you get what you came here for.
It's
Doug,
going to fuel my vanity, or it's going to reinforce my imposter syndrome. So whichever way, let us know.
Quick question before we move on. How is this different than A/B testing? It seems to be very similar, but maybe it's not the same.
Yeah. You might be thinking, well, why don't I just run a quick t-test or a chai test or something like that? Well, in this instance, we didn't get to run a B variation. If we don't have the option because of an external event, because of some action in the market, if we don't get to split test this, then we don't have the luxury. Ideally, we would split test new features or campaigns. We don't always have the option though. So this being an external influence, we can still look at our data. We can still look at our prior data, establish whether we have a causal relationship, and still act with confidence, as we would with an A/B test, but slightly different.
Cool. And then, you were going to walk us through a couple of screenshots here and kind of bring this back into the world of GA quickly. Yeah. So, walk us through what we're seeing here in the context of significance.
Well, it's more a case of what we're not seeing. It's striking that. You chose a really good example here. Okay, so we can eyeball that cyclical looking data, apart from the far right of the chart there, and say, yeah, something happened. Well, did it? There's actually very few places in the current Google Analytics that tell us this is something that happened with significance. This was causal for some reason. We can't necessarily eyeball that. If we were looking at, let's go onto the next slide just to clarify. If we look at excuse me, the top right on our Google Analytics, we can see insights. Now this is telling us something happened. This is out of the ordinary. This is something you should take note of. And a lot of the time it can explain, here's something that happened, here's why. That's useful, that's handy. Now the graph beneath there, if we've got any optimized users in the audience, you'll recognize this. Let's go on to the next slide, just to be absolutely clear. Optimize is the only other place in the current Google Analytics where you can get any degree of significance or any statistical measure of confidence in the data that you're seeing. Now that's changing with the new version of Google Analytics with App and Web, where you can set up a custom anomaly detection. There's a whole bunch of templates that are being made available, or you can set up your own metric so that should something curious or should something significant happen in that data, Google Analytics will actually surface that signal, which I think is immensely powerful. I think that's a really exciting feature that's coming up there.
Awesome. So let's move forward into kind of the actual process of how you start to blend this idea of significance into your GA data. And just to kind of keep us on time and get us into the live demo quickly, do you want to quickly walk us through just some of the mechanics that we have very, very simply laid out in this diagram? We tried to boil this down.
Sure thing, cool. So you've highlighted the orange box there. Something happened, let's say a campaign launched, all right? We want to know, was it worth it? Was it effective? Okay, so because of reality, because of physics, we can't observe two different outcomes at the same time. And this is when we need to quantify our causal effect. So we say, what would have happened if we hadn't done this campaign? What would have happened if we hadn't run this campaign? So we have our dotted line showing our pre-period before the event. We have a bunch of data. We use that data to train a model that makes a prediction on our behalf, based on the data that it's seen previously, what it would look like if everything was normal. This is what we call our synthetic control estimator. It's a forecast, if you like, but it's important. Even though we've got a dotted line there, this is a confidence range. This is a probability that we are expressing here. Now, if our observed data, the orange line, falls outside of the range that we have from our synthetic control estimator, then we have significance. Something definitely happened. We can compare our observed data with our counterfactual estimate, and therefore we can quantify our effect there. Notice the causal effect, the gray bar we have there. That's a vertical line on the graph. So it's not just an indication of, yeah, something significant happened. It's a quantity too. We say, yes, this was significant, and it changed our data by this much, and that's really, really important.
Awesome.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And so luckily, none of us, at least at MightyHive, have to, do all of the fundamental research and mathematics to understand this. So tell us very quickly about CausalImpact, the open source library that you use to do some of this work.
Yeah, cool. I think a really solid piece of advice. You tweeted the link to the video earlier on. I've watched it. Fascinating stuff. Goes into much more detail than I would, could, or need to. Essentially, it's an open source R package written by some super smart guys at Google. You can get this for R, and you can start doing causal impact calculations using your time series data from Google Analytics using 3 lines of R. You could spin up RStudio on your local machine. You could spin up RStudio in the cloud on GCP, AWS, doesn't matter. But basically in 3 lines, without having to learn all this Bayesian structural time series model clever stuff, then you can still start to use it. It's removing so much complexity and making something so powerful, so accessible. It's brilliant.
Awesome. All right, so now it is live demo time. I am going to stop my screen share, and you are going to take over, Doug, and show us what you've been up to.
Cool. Well, okay, right. Well, led by hands or tails. So here I go, share, and I should be able to let's maximize my window here. Excellent. Okay, so I want to give a big shout. Everyone can see, you can see my screen, right?
I can see it, Doug.
Excellent, good. So I want to give a big shout out here to a friend of mine, Mark Edmondson, works at IIH Nordic. He took the CausalImpact R package and he wrote this pretty fantastic shiny front end that I'm going to use to demonstrate the the functionality of the package. So big shout out to IIH Nordic and Mark Edmondson, top chap, very nice fellow. So I've logged in and I'm using the old ConversionWorks account. Still exists, bless it, still there, still got data. I'm going to use the ConversionWorks web property and I'm going to go into the standard view. Okay, so I want to be able to look at all of the data that ConversionWorks has. Not much, but it's good quality. From January 1st, okay, it's decided to count, so I'm going to refresh that. The demo gods didn't smile on me, Miles. No worries.
Oh no.
I'm just going to log in again. It should take 2 seconds. I'm going to use Fastbloke. There we go. Everything is fine. Good. Let's do some more setup. Right, ConversionWorks. Let's choose all of this year's data. And I'm going to look, but basically we want to say, was there a significant change in the number of sessions on ConversionWorks from lockdown? So I'm going to choose lockdown here, okay. Lockdown day was March 9th in the UK, and it's fairly regularly lumpy. I know from 10 years of experience, this is weekly seasonality in our data. So that I've made my configuration there. I've written no code. See how much code I've written there? 0 lines of software written by me. And that's probably a good thing. So now let's check out our results. Let's say, yes, there was a significant change in the number of sessions on ConversionWorks, even with small beans of data. But the thing is, I mean, Miles, you can look at that data. Without the aid of the package, would you be able to eyeball that line and say, yeah, that's a significant change. That really matters. I'm going to make a $1 million decision based on this data. Would you be confident doing that without the aid of this package?
No, I mean, it just looks like weekly analytics data.
Yeah. It's not always possible to eyeball it. And we even get the cumulative impact. If this continues, here's what our data can look like. So we get some degree of forecast in there as well. So even though the demo gods had a little snigger at me, I think that is about as successful as we can get.
That's amazing.
All right, I'm going to hit stop share on this one then, and hopefully that's going to give you back control.
All right, let's do my share screen again. Where am I? All right. Okay.
Back in the room.
Should be back in business here. Okay, so let us proceed from the idea of significance to taking these concepts and turning them into action, Doug. So you took a couple of screenshots here that you're going to walk us through.
Yeah. So we've done a bunch of analyses for our clients, looking at their KPIs from the point of view of from lockdown. Was there a significant change? So we've got 2 examples here. The white section on top, that's from one of our pharmaceutical clients. Now, with these guys, we see a significant decline in the number of users on the site. But even with that decline in users, we're seeing an increase in page views, increase in sessions, pages per session, lots more engagement. And once you'd say, this is great, you know, we've got a lot of revenue, we've got AOV is up and e-commerce is up. But what I'm not showing here is that the range of products sold has narrowed. The number of and the type of products is much, much tighter than usual, significantly. Okay, we've used causal impact to say, yes, this is actually a thing. So we can see that revenue per product is really concentrated. Users want certain products. They want their consumables. They want their regular items. It's a pharmacy, right? So we can understand that. Mm-hmm. Some of these things are out of stock and they can't find their alternatives. So we recommend, based on the back of this kind of analysis, that users, the client may want to tune the site to reduce the friction in selling those top 5 products, make it easier for more users to go and access these necessary products and to be able to shop on the site. And they've done this, so it's really impressive that they're taking this on board. So that was the pharmaceutical client. The grey revenue, the grey area in the bottom there, that's from the sports client. Okay, so on face value, it looks a bit bad. Revenue's down, AOV is down, but on the right hand side there, we see AOV since lockdown, since that event. This is one of the powers of causal impact. Since lockdown, AOV, average order value, the basket value, has actually grown 8% year on year. So let's go to the bigger view there. That's easier to eyeball there, I think. So I mean that's one that yes it is pretty clear to the eye, but we actually confirm this. So knowing that AOV has climbed in this manner. This is exciting stuff. So why and how? Well, again, very similar to the pharma example. There is a narrowing of products, and understanding what those products are means that we can then make recommendations to the client, get these products on the homepage, get them in an email campaign, get them in the paid ads. So we can understand what the current demand is and then tune the marketing and the merchandising efforts and the personalization efforts to make maximum relevance and get maximum value for the users. So that's I think we've got some two pretty clear examples there of how we've taken the time series data, the Google Analytics data, the causal impact package, and we've driven really valuable impact, really valuable change.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Doug. So we are, running close to the half-hour mark. So this is great. This is the perfect time to, start to wrap things up and do a little live Q&A. If I can get Zoom to show me my Q&A box here, we can read off some questions.
Cool. I think Dan's got the first question I see here. Dan Vacilek. Dan, I hope I've got your name pronounced correctly. That how does this work for ongoing campaigns? Well, as long as you've got a reasonable body of data prior to the campaign launch, you can identify when that campaign launched. Then the model built on your prior data, you can say, okay, with 2 or 3 days worth of data, having the campaign running, is this having an effect? So within 24 hours, you can probably start to see some sort of signal there. Cool thing about causal impact, it will give you a probability to say, yeah, this is significant, this is not significant, this is the degree of change. So you could use that sliding scale to be a source of advice on how you're going to use it.
Awesome. Yeah, and I'm finally into the Q&A here. Thanks
Cool.
for the tech support, Adam. What looks good, Doug? Let's just keep running through these questions.
What's a neophyte?
Well,
So some guy called Julian, we know who we're talking about. What would it take for a neophyte to install and use causal impact? So what Julian is my counterpart in EMEA. So Julian's saying, basically, how hard is it to use causal impact? If you can spell R, which is relatively straightforward, then you can install the causal impact package. You've got the links to the package in the slide deck, so use those links, follow the instructions to the letter, and causal impact, very straightforward to install.
Cool. Doug, let's see, what else is in here that looks good to you?
Okay. Evan Kading, this seems like a very powerful tool. What are the limitations associated with this approach? Well, in my experience, because we're dealing with probabilities, because we are not dealing with absolutes, then the explanation that you would, if you're using this for your clients or your C-levels, the explanation needs to be absolutely clear. I deliberately didn't go into any mathematics today, and I don't think anyone would. If you can explain the difference between significance and noise, then you can definitely start to use this tool. The limitation is in terms of if you start to explain Bayesian time series inference models and machine learning, you're going to lose people real quickly. So keep it high level. Keep it high level, and it's relatively straightforward. Far better explanation than I could ever give is in the video that Miles tweeted earlier on today, and it's in the slide deck as well. The explanation in the video is excellent, well worth following. They do a better job than me.
Yeah, it's a very good video. It was like literally my prep for this webinar. So actually, I apologize in advance. We're not going to have the time to answer all of these questions. These are great questions. I think we'll try to answer them offline after the event. Maybe answer them in a blog post or something like that. So thank you for all the questions. There is one here that I do like a lot. Doug, would love to hear your thoughts on this. Shay, I'm sorry if I'm butchering the pronunciation, asks, how well does it deal with, say, a national holiday that moves year to year? So there's a little dynamism in your data. how are you going to account for that? And then the other thing I'm just going to make sure and point out, Doug, is we can't go back into the live demo, unfortunately, but you actually were able to select a little bit of seasonality in your console that you built there. So that's, you know, if you want to call that out, go ahead.
That's it. Yeah. I know Shay. Hello, Shay. Glad you made it onto the webinar here. I hope this was useful. So yeah, how does it deal with national holiday? The move year to year. Well, I think depending on the date range that you choose to include as your prior, as long as that includes 2, maybe 3 occurrences, the signal is going to be strong enough. I mean, you know, say for example, in the UK next week. Normally, we would have Monday as a national holiday. That's been moved to the Friday. Not a huge amount. It's in the same week. So if we say that we have a strong seasonal set of data, and we say, yes, we've got 3-4 years worth of data, and it is an annual change that happens on or around this date, then we can easily cater for that moving. If it moves from, say, January to August, yeah, you're hosed. But I think what we're talking about here is the example of next week, where it shifts maybe a few days each year, still handleable, not a problem at all. Remember, we're dealing with probabilities, so that's likely going to be catered for. You may see a lower probability of significance, but if it's a useful signal, as I said earlier on, it's better than guessing.
Awesome. Well, all right, we are, I guess, just a couple minutes over time here, which is not so bad.
I do go on. I apologize.
It's all your fault, Doug.
Yeah, I'll take the blame.
So we are going to wrap things up here. Thank you, everybody who tuned in, for watching. Like I said, we'll try and address those questions after the fact. But if you want to ask Doug a question, he has been so kind as to offer up his actual email, doug@mightyhive.com, or if you want to tweet at him, he is @fastbloke on Twitter. Once again, subscribe at livewithmightyhive.splashthat.com so that you can be informed of future episodes. And then reach out to us over email at live@mightyhive.com. Honestly, if you have episode ideas, we'd love to hear it. We want to make this relevant to you. And then to the next episode, we're going to do Thursday, May 14th. Our own Julien Coquet is going to come on and share some data quality nightmares, which I think that'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So anyway, thank you very much for everybody for attending, and we hope to see you again soon.
Everyone stay safe and well.